I accidentally saw a message where my boyfriend told his friend he was moving to Paris soon to live near his childhood sweetheart. When the friend asked what about his girlfriend, he said I couldn't leave him anyway and didn't have the money to live alone in expensive New York, so I'd have to follow him. I sneered, chose to dump him, and moved into the luxury Manhattan apartment my dad bought for me. He was completely shattered when he saw photos of me and another handsome guy in the mansion. The graduation party was just over. I leaned against the sofa in Steve's apartment, my head throbbing. Steve was taking a shower in the bathroom. A message notification popped up on Steve's phone screen. I instinctively averted my eyes, but then, the nickname of Steve's friend, Mark, and a few words grabbed my attention like a magnet. Mark, dude, awesome. You actually got the Paris offer? Now you get to go after Rebecca, your childhood sweetheart. Wish fulfillment, huh? My heart instantly clenched, like an icy hand was squeezing it tight. I stiffly picked up the phone. My fingerprint unlocked the screen, and the chat history was laid bare before my eyes. Steve, of course. The Paris job pays well enough for me to establish myself in Europe, and Rebecca is studying there, so it's only natural for me to go find her. Mark, what about Fiona? Didn't you guys plan to move to New York together? My breath caught, my body turned cold as I waited for the reply that would prove he wasn't a total jerk. Steve, Fiona? If she doesn't want to go, tough luck. Paris is 10,000 miles from New York. She has no connections. Establish herself alone in expensive New York? In her dreams. Steve, anyway, New York was just talk. She's not Rebecca. My hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. He got a job in Paris? He was going to Paris for Rebecca? He never mentioned a word of this to me. And for 2 months prior, we had been excitedly discussing a New York apartment and commuting times. She has no connections. Steve's contempt and undisguised calculation hurt me even more than the betrayal itself. It turned out that in the 4 years I had given everything and followed his every step, he never saw me as an equal partner, just an easily disposable accessory, summoned and dismissed at his whim. He could abandon me so easily because between me and his always #1 childhood sweetheart, he didn't hesitate for a second. The bathroom door creaked open. Steve walked out, wrapped in a towel. He froze when he saw me holding his phone, a flicker of unnoticed panic in his eyes, quickly masked by his arrogance. What are you looking at? Steve frowned, his tone conveying displeasure. I didn't look up. My fingertips dug tightly into the screen, my nails practically embedding into my flesh. I recalled a secret only I knew. Just 2 weeks ago, my father, a discreetly wealthy businessman with his own Wall Street firm, had purchased a luxury apartment for me next to Central Park as a graduation gift. I had planned it as a surprise for the two of us to settle down in New York. Steve said I had no connections and couldn't establish myself alone in expensive New York? A deeply cold curve lifted the corner of my mouth. Since he thought I didn't deserve a better future, since he was so eager to abandon me and rush to his #1, I decided to indulge his stupidity. I slowly lowered the phone, raised my head, my eyes as calm as stagnant water, completely concealing the raging storm of anger within. Nothing. Congrats on the Paris offer, I said softly, without a trace of emotion in my voice. Something came up. I have to go. Steve was stunned. The explanations and cover-ups he had prepared were lodged in his throat by my composed tone. He frowned, but before he could ask about New York, I grabbed my bag and walked out of the apartment full of lies without a backward glance. I wouldn't tell him about the luxury New York apartment. I would go to New York alone. All my resources, all my goodwill, all my love, would be withdrawn and kept for myself. The door closed behind me. I didn't look back. I strolled through the campus night. The cold evening breeze sobered me up, but couldn't blow away the dull ache in my heart. I had spent 4 years, like a loyal devotee, chasing Steve's footsteps. From secretly finding out the city he chose in high school to insisting on applying to the same university. I constantly adjusted my interests, my friend circle, even my fashion style, just to be the perfect girlfriend in his eyes. I sacrificed countless nights helping him organize project materials, sacrificed my social time to handle various errands for him, simply because of his offhand remark, Fiona, you're the most competent. Looking back now, he never truly respected me, let alone loved me. In his company, I was merely a free assistant, a paid maid, and a backdrop to set off his narcissistic halo. In her dreams. Steve's scornful voice echoed in my ear again. I stopped, pulled out my phone, and opened the front camera. In the lens, my eyes were slightly red, but my gaze was steadier than ever before. I pulled out a tissue, vigorously wiped away the dampness from my eyes, erasing every tear shed for Steve. Enough. The life I lived for him ends here. The New York I chose would be the starting point for me to begin anew and live for myself. Just then, my phone rang. Steve's name was on the screen. I took a deep breath, answered the call, my tone as flat as if I were taking a telemarketing call. What is it? Where did you run off to? Steve's voice was laced with impatience and a high-handed command. Stop throwing a tantrum. It's my graduation today. Get back here quickly, I need you to handle all the party stuff. When I heard the word party, an alarm immediately went off in my mind. I knew the party wasn't just for celebrating his graduation, it was for celebrating Rebecca's return. Rebecca, 2 years younger than Steve, was studying in Paris and had deliberately returned on break to attend Steve's graduation party. Did you hear me? Go to the supermarket and buy all the high-end drinks and snacks. Don't embarrass me. Steve made the demand without hesitation, as if I were still the disposable tool who would come when called and pay the bills. I sneered. I could almost picture Steve's arrogant, entitled face. Party? My voice was laced with sarcasm, each word a clear retort. Isn't Rebecca back? Isn't she enough to keep you company? A brief silence fell on the other end of the line. Fiona, what do you mean? Steve's voice immediately rose, carrying the annoyance and guilt of being exposed. What are you jealous of now? Rebecca is just my neighbor's little sister. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Sister? I repeated scornfully. The flame of anger in my heart was completely extinguished, replaced only by boundless calm. You enjoy your time with your sister. As for me, you won't have to worry about my business anymore. Without waiting for Steve to argue further, I ruthlessly hung up the phone. Less than 5 minutes after I hung up on Steve, a strange message with a familiar profile picture popped up. It was Rebecca. Rebecca, Fiona sis, I'm so sorry. I didn't know my coming back would make you and Steve bro fight. I know you love him very much, but today is his graduation after all. Please come back quickly, everyone is waiting for you. I promise I'll contact him less in the future. Please don't be mad at me, okay? I looked coldly at this typical green tea apology, seemingly self-reproachful, but actually implying that I was narrow-minded and jealous. I didn't hesitate to directly delete Rebecca's conversation thread. But then, my phone blew up with continuous notifications. Lisa, Fiona, aren't you making too big a deal out of this? Rebecca is really nice. Why are you causing trouble now? Hurry up and buy the drinks, the party atmosphere is dying. Mike, Fiona, Steve is pretty embarrassed today. It's okay if you don't come, but what about the things you promised to help buy? Everyone is waiting to drink, don't hold everyone up because of personal drama. Sarah, I get that you're jealous, but seriously, Rebecca is going back to Paris soon. Why are you so petty? Just Venmo me the money, and we can go buy it. My eyes scanned the messages, and a mocking smile gradually appeared on my lips. None of them asked what was wrong with me. None of them cared about the problem between me and Steve. All they cared about was one thing, the free drinks and food at the party. Their so-called peacemaking was just urging me to quickly fulfill my duty as an ATM. This group was willfully ignorant, pretending to believe Rebecca was just a sister, pretending to condemn me as petty and jealous, just to continue spending my money and enjoying the conveniences I provided. This is truly enough, I muttered in disgust. I opened my social media and saw that Steve had posted an update with a blurry photo of the party scene, featuring Rebecca's sweet profile. Steve, some people can come or not. We're having just as much fun without you, and the atmosphere is even more relaxed. This post was the final straw, completely crushing the last bit of sanity and attachment in my heart. He didn't care about me, he only cared about saving face. My actions were exceptionally calm and decisive. I went back to Steve's chat interface, tapped his profile, and selected delete and block. I switched to a different messaging app, found Lisa, Mike, Sarah, and all the classmates who had just messaged me. Without a single reply, I blocked them all. Finally, I deleted all group chats and contacts related to this group of people across all my social apps, completely cutting off all connections to this false circle. The phone screen returned to silence. I raised my hand and tucked the phone into my pocket. After completely clearing my social media, I felt an unprecedented sense of ease. But as my emotions settled, the details I had deliberately overlooked or rationalized over the past 4 years now surged like a tide, exposing Steve's hypocrisy in all its ugliness. Steve's description of Rebecca was always the neighbor's little sister who needs extra care, a clumsy and blatant excuse. His contact with Rebecca never stopped, often late at night or when he and I were on a date. I, blinded by unrequited love, had been a fool, rationalizing all the ambiguity as pure friendship and childhood bond. However, two scenes now replayed vividly in my mind like a film, every detail pointing to the same cruel truth. It was summer break 2 years ago. We were both home, and I missed Steve, so I video called him. Steve's background was his bedroom, the image was shaky, and he explained the signal was poor. Suddenly, a muffled female voice came through the video, a hint of playful demand in her tone. "Steve, hand me my pajamas." My heart clenched at the time. Steve immediately pointed the phone camera at the ceiling and quickly and perfunctorily explained, "Oh, that's my sister. She's showering in my room." The me of that time chose to believe him. Now, I realized with a start, how could Steve's biological sister be showering in his room late at night and ask him to hand her pajamas? The tone of that voice was clearly the dependency of an intimate girlfriend. Undoubtedly, that was Rebecca, who was home from Paris for the holidays. The other time was just a few months ago on Valentine's Day. We had planned to see a romantic movie, but Steve was distracted the entire time. He kept his phone on his lap, secretly lighting up the screen every few minutes. When reading a message, a smile of infinite tenderness and sweetness, one I had never seen before, would appear on his lips. I had only felt uncomfortable then, but afraid of ruining the mood, I didn't question him. Now, I calmly opened my Instagram and searched for Rebecca's account. I hadn't blocked Rebecca, just rarely followed her. I scrolled to Rebecca's post from this year's Valentine's Day. Image, a screenshot of a chat log with only 2 lines, but they were glaring, "Miss you." The sender's name was covered by a heart sticker. Caption, "Can't see you, but miss you too. Thank you for always being there." My finger scrolled down, and I clearly saw Steve's name and profile picture in the list of likes. Everything was self-evident. This wasn't a sister or extra care, it was a naked, 4-year-long betrayal. Rebecca was openly telling him "I miss you" on Valentine's Day, and he was responding with the same affection, only to turn around and give his actual girlfriend sitting beside him a perfunctory date. I locked my phone and gripped it tightly. The self-doubt and filtering caused by my unrequited love were completely shattered, leaving only anger at my foolish past self. I was packing my bags, ready to fly to New York the next day and start my new life a week early. A demanding, impatient pounding rattled the apartment door. I knew who it was. I took a deep breath, composed myself, and pulled the door open. Steve stood on the threshold, his face dark, his eyes burning with anger and a subtle hint of panic. "Are you out of your mind? Blocking me? Blocking everyone?" he demanded, his voice strained with suppressed rage. The party clearly hadn't been fun. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe, my expression as calm as if I were addressing a stranger. "I'm not obligated to answer your questions, Steve. We're over." "Over? Who are you to just say we're over?" Steve stepped forward, attempting to dominate me with sheer presence. "Don't act so high and mighty. I know what you saw. The Paris offer is mine. It's my freedom to go where I want." "Then congrats on your freedom," I replied without a ripple of emotion. Steve's expression suddenly became complicated. Realizing that force and fury wouldn't work, he instantly switched to his supposedly charming win-her-back mode. "Listen, Fiona. I know you're upset, but you're the most important to me." He paused, unable to say the word love, and vaguely substituted, "the closest person to me. I can give you a chance." He lifted his chin with an air of condescending arrogance. "I've decided I'm going to Paris. If you want to salvage this, if you still want to be with me, then pack your things and come to Paris with me. This is your last chance." I shook my head in disgust. I saw right through him. "Salvage? Do you think I'm some accessory custom made for you? I'm not going to Paris." "Then where are you going?" Steve sneered. "Back to your small town? Don't fantasize about establishing yourself in New York alone." "You absolutely can't. I'm going to New York," I cut him off, my voice calm but carrying an immovable resolve. Just then, the elevator doors at the end of the hall slid open with a soft ding. A tall, well-built figure emerged. He was wearing a casual hoodie and carrying a gym bag slung over his shoulder. It was Casper, the star quarterback of the university football team. Casper, who apparently lived nearby, saw Steve and me confronting each other and wore a slightly amused expression. He slowed his pace just in time to hear my declaration, "I'm going to New York." Casper raised an eyebrow, a hint of playful curiosity in his voice as he spoke. Oh? You're going to New York, too? Steve instantly bristled, like a lion whose territory had been invaded. He unconsciously positioned himself in front of me, glaring at Casper with hostility. None of your business. Beat it! I walked around Steve, looked at Casper, and gave him a nod, the corner of my mouth lifting slightly. Yes. I'm moving to New York. I turned, pushed Steve aside without hesitation, and commanded, Get out, Steve. Don't let me see you again. Steve's face flushed then paled. Shoved backward by me and having his humiliation witnessed by Casper, he shot me one last hateful glare, then turned and stomped away in resentment. I closed the door, leaned against it, and exhaled deeply. At that moment, my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. I opened it. Rebecca had posted a new update. Rebecca, the accompanying photo showed two hands tightly clasped together, the faint silhouette of the Eiffel Tower visible in the background. Caption, finally heading to Paris together. I've waited too long for this day. I smiled silently, with a sense of complete, easy relief. His so-called salvage attempt, it turned out, was just him being afraid Rebecca would find out his backup plan was in New York, wanting to drag me to Paris to continue being his easily summoned closest person. I had just put my phone down when two polite knocks sounded on the apartment door. Thinking it was Steve returning, I cautiously opened it. Standing outside was Casper. Sorry to bother you, Casper said, offering his signature sunny smile, but his eyes held a seriously probing look. I just overheard. You're moving to New York? I think we've only ever said hi on campus. I nodded. That's right. I'm leaving tomorrow. Casper put his hands in his pockets, his tone as natural as an old friend. I'm heading to New York, too. Since we're both going to the same place, why not exchange numbers? Maybe I can help you out in New York. I stared at him, hesitating for a second. The man was bright, straightforward, and his eyes lacked Steve's calculating self-absorption. I gave a decisive nod. A week later, I successfully arrived in New York and settled into the luxury apartment my father had arranged for me near Central Park. The high-floor apartment offered a spectacular view, with the bustling New York skyline and the lush Central Park greenery framed by the floor-to-ceiling windows. I had a week to adapt to the city before reporting to my finance firm on Wall Street. Just as I set down my last box of luggage, Casper called. Hey, New Yorker, his voice was cheerful. Welcome home. I'm having a party tonight. Want to come? Meet some real New York friends. I readily accepted. I needed to socialize and completely break away from the old college circle. The party was held in a Soho duplex apartment, the atmosphere relaxed and lively. Casper introduced me to his friends, most of whom were New York natives. Their eyes were open and honest, completely free of the cliquish snobbery and calculation found in their university peers. I felt a long-lost sense of respect and ease. It was late when the party ended. Casper, the gentleman, offered to drive everyone home. I got into his luxury SUV. Two other guys from our university, including one named Rick, whom I didn't know well, were in the back seat. Fiona, where are you staying? Casper started the car. I gave my address, Central Park West, X Block. Rick's body stiffened slightly in the back, but I didn't notice. Casper checked the navigation. Okay, we'll drop the others off first. It's on the way. The car drove smoothly. Soon, the other friends got out, and only I and Casper remained in the car. As Casper's car slowly pulled up in front of my distinctive luxury apartment building, my phone suddenly vibrated in my bag. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered the call. Hello? The next second, a drunken, hysterical voice of rage violently filled the quiet car. The sheer noise made Casper look over. Fiona! Are you seeing another man? It was Steve, screaming. His voice was filled with a madness of betrayal and jealousy. I frowned. Rick told me everything. You didn't go back home, you moved into a luxury apartment. Next to Central Park. Did you hook up with someone rich ages ago and just use me as an excuse to leave? You whore. Steve's voice was like a broken alarm, pouring out all his insecurity and anger. With a sharp snap, I cut the call, giving him no opportunity for explanation or further insults. Casper spoke, his tone full of apology. Fiona, I am so sorry. I didn't know Rick knew Steve, or that he'd leak your address. His eyes were earnest. If Steve shows up here to harass you, you can call or text me anytime. I live nearby, I can be here in 5 minutes. My eyes had regained their calm. I smiled at Casper. Thank you, Casper. I can handle it. Good night. I pushed open the car door and walked into the lobby of the luxury apartment building without looking back. Behind me, Casper's car lights stayed on until I disappeared into the elevator. Casper still felt guilty about Rick leaking my address. Even though I had handled everything flawlessly, he knew Steve would never have found me if it weren't for him. On Friday afternoon, Casper invited me to his place for the weekend, his tone carrying a mix of apology and anticipation. Think of it as my formal apology. And, I promise Steve will never find you there. I thought for a moment. I felt it was time to get out of my apartment and wanted to get to know the straightforward quarterback better. I gladly accepted. On Saturday morning, I came downstairs dressed in my most comfortable casual wear, a simple white t-shirt paired with fitted jeans and sneakers. I felt comfort was paramount for a friend's gathering. When I reached the apartment entrance, I saw a sleek, shiny black convertible parked by the curb. Casper, standing next to the car, was attracting the attention of every passerby. Casper's attire gave me pause. He was wearing a perfectly tailored dark suit and a bow tie, looking like a male model who had stepped off a fashion magazine cover, exuding an elite aura completely different from his usual campus demeanor. Casper saw me, walked over to open the car door for me, his eyes twinkling with amusement and admiration. My apologies, I didn't give you a dress code in advance. I settled into the car and asked, this is just a family gathering, right? You're dressed like. Casper pressed the accelerator, and the convertible smoothly merged into traffic. He explained, don't worry, it's just a family gathering. But we have a lot of rules, the elders prefer things to be a bit more formal. If you don't mind being uncomfortable in casual clothes, we can just go. I frowned slightly. My etiquette education told me that for a formal family gathering, I should respect the host's request. I didn't want to embarrass Casper with my casualness. I'd really like to respect the etiquette, Casper. How about I go up and change into a more formal dress? I suggested. Casper glanced at his wristwatch, shook his head, and offered a mysterious smile. No time, and I'd prefer you wore something custom-made for you. He floored the accelerator. The sports car roared and brought me directly to a high-end luxury custom store on 5th Avenue. Go on in. Don't hold back, Casper said, handing his keys to the valet and winking at me. Still in shock, I was led into the store by Casper. The staff clearly knew Casper's identity and immediately greeted them respectfully. Casper briefly described the need and the occasion to the staff, then sat on the sofa in the lounge area, gesturing for me to select something. Under Casper's guidance, I finally chose an exquisitely tailored, richly textured velvet evening gown, paired with heels and matching jewelry. When I emerged from the fitting room, the entire store fell silent. Casper, who had been wearing a light smile, froze when he saw the transformed me. My naturally subtle beauty, amplified by the custom tailoring, was completely unleashed. The gown outlined my graceful figure, the high heels gave me the presence of a queen. His eyes were filled with astonishment. He stood up, his Adam's apple moving slightly, and gave a genuine compliment, Fiona, you are unbelievably beautiful. I blushed slightly at his praise, but in his sincere gaze, what I felt was not Steve's selfish possessiveness, but pure admiration and respect. Casper still felt guilty about Rick leaking my address. Although I had handled the situation flawlessly, he knew Steve would never have found me if it hadn't been for him. On Friday afternoon, Casper invited me to spend the weekend at his place, his tone carrying a blend of apology and anticipation. Consider it my formal apology. Plus, I promise Steve will never find you there. I thought for a moment. I felt it was time to step out of my apartment and wanted to get to know the straightforward quarterback better. I readily agreed. Saturday morning, I came downstairs wearing my most comfortable casual clothes, a simple white t-shirt paired with fitted jeans and sneakers. I felt comfort was the most important thing for visiting a friend. When I reached the apartment entrance, I saw a sleek, shiny black convertible parked by the curb. Casper, standing next to the car, was attracting the attention of every passerby. Casper's attire made me feel a little awkward. He was wearing a perfectly tailored dark suit and a bow tie, looking like a male model who had stepped straight out of a fashion magazine, exuding an elite air entirely different from his usual campus vibe. Casper saw me, walked over to open the car door for me, his eyes twinkling with a mix of amusement and appreciation. My apologies, I didn't notify you of the dress code in advance. I settled into the car and asked, "This is just a family gathering, right?" "You're dressed like this." Casper stepped on the gas, and the convertible smoothly merged into traffic. He explained, "Don't worry, it really is just a family gathering. But my family has a lot of rules. The elders prefer things to be a bit formal. If you don't mind being uncomfortable in your casual clothes, we can just head straight there." I frowned slightly. My education in etiquette told me that for a formal family gathering, I should respect the host's request. I didn't want my casual appearance to embarrass Casper. "I really want to respect the etiquette, Casper. How about I go up and change into a more formal dress?" I suggested. Casper glanced at his wristwatch, shook his head, and gave me a mysterious smile. "No time. And I'd actually prefer you wore something custom-made for you." He floored the accelerator. The sports car let out a low growl and took me directly to a high-end luxury custom store on Fifth Avenue. "Go on in." "Don't be shy," Casper said, handing his keys to the valet and winking at me. Still reeling from the shock, I was led into the store by Casper. The staff clearly knew Casper's identity and immediately greeted them respectfully. Casper briefly described the needs and the occasion to the staff, then sat on the sofa in the lounge area, gesturing for me to make my selection. Guided by Casper, I ultimately chose an exquisitely tailored, richly luxurious velvet evening gown, paired with high heels and matching jewelry. When I emerged from the dressing room, the entire store fell silent. Casper, who had worn a light smile moments before, froze when he saw the transformed me. My naturally subtle beauty, enhanced by the custom design, was completely unleashed. The gown emphasized my graceful figure, and the heels added a queen-like presence. His eyes were filled with astonishment. He stood up, his Adam's apple subtly bobbing, and complimented me sincerely, "Fiona, you are unbelievably beautiful." I blushed slightly at his praise, but in his genuine gaze, what I felt was not Steve's selfish possessiveness, but a pure appreciation and respect. Casper drove the newly transformed me away from the hustle and bustle of Manhattan, heading east. The sports car eventually passed through towering wrought iron gates and drove down a neatly trimmed, tree-lined avenue. At the end of the drive, a magnificent classical structure appeared before me. It wasn't a house, but an opulent estate on Long Island. I felt a strong sense of shock and awkwardness. I had assumed it was a simple family get-together, never imagining that Casper's background extended so far beyond my expectations. My father was successful, but the wealth and historical presence displayed by Casper's family were on a different level entirely. Casper parked the car and, noticing my nervousness, handled the situation with care. He retrieved 2 exquisite, high-end gift bags from the trunk, then gave me a look and quietly said, "They have 2 nice bottles of wine and some desserts inside. Don't be nervous, just come in with me." Just as we reached the entrance, Casper suddenly stopped and took the gift bags from me, telling me naturally, "You took time getting ready, so you didn't have time to pick out gifts. We'll just say these are from you, gifts from my parents." I was again stunned by Casper's thoughtfulness and gentlemanly conduct. He so casually protected my dignity, ensuring I didn't appear empty-handed at this unexpected upscale gathering. I nodded gratefully and followed him into the estate. The gathering was indeed small, just as Casper had said, with only his parents, grandmother, and a few cousins present. Casper's parents welcomed me warmly, their eyes holding the gentle scrutiny of elders toward a junior, but mostly appreciation. As we walked around the garden terrace with champagne, Casper's younger cousins surrounded us, their warmth helping me to relax considerably. "Hey, Casper, is this the first time you've brought a girl to a family gathering?" one lively female cousin asked, winking. "Yeah, you always used to say it was too boring to bring anyone," a male cousin chimed in. Casper's ears turned slightly red with a rare embarrassment. He quickly cleared his throat, cutting off their teasing. "All right, stop it. Fiona is a good friend of mine." Casper carefully managed my comfort the entire time, giving me a tour of the estate and bringing me various exquisite snacks. He knew I might feel uncomfortable in this unfamiliar setting, so he never left me to face any awkward situation alone. To avoid formal conversation, Casper led me to a sunlit pool deep within the grounds. The pool was constructed like an ancient Roman fountain, the water clear and sparkling under the sun. "This pool is beautiful," I remarked. Casper's eyes were full of nostalgia. "I used to jump in and play all the time when I was a kid." My parents were furious. Once, when we played hide-and-seek, I even hid underwater, holding my breath for ages. I looked at him in surprise, finding it hard to imagine the elite gentleman in the suit being such a mischievous child. Casper grinned like a big boy. "Want to try it?" I looked hesitantly at my velvet gown. It would be inappropriate to get it wet. Casper shrugged dismissively. It's fine. They're your own clothes. Plus, it's afternoon tea time, we don't need to go back to the party right now. It will dry quickly in the sun. He didn't give me much time to think, suddenly scooping up a handful of water and lightly splashing it on my face. I paused, then burst out laughing, returning a splash of my own. Soon, we forgot our luxurious clothes and high heels, playing water tag like two children who had regained their freedom by the sun-drenched pool, our laughter echoing continuously. Water splashed our hair and clothes, spotting the formal wear, but I only felt lighthearted and happy, a pure relaxation I hadn't experienced since meeting Steve. After a while, the two stopped, breathless. I took out my phone and snapped a photo of us, our hair and clothes slightly damp. In the picture, my eyes were full of laughter, without a trace of the shadows of betrayal. I opened Instagram, posted the photo, and added a simple caption, "Thanks to a friend for bringing out my inner child." I spent a delightful day at the Long Island estate, completely relaxing both mind and body. However, my Instagram post struck like a precise missile, utterly demolishing Steve from afar. The next morning, as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw a familiar, defeated figure, Steve. He was no longer sporting the drunken arrogance of the previous encounters. He was squatting by the roadside, unshaven, his eyes bloodshot, tightly clutching his phone, which displayed Casper and my water-splashed photo. When he saw me, he immediately rushed toward me. This time, he abandoned all false accusations and resorted to desperate pleading. "Fiona! You can't do this to me. You can't be with that football guy." Steve's voice was tearful. He tried to grab my hand, but I quickly sidestepped him. "What do you look like right now?" I asked coldly, without any emotional change. "I was wrong, I was truly wrong," he screamed in a breakdown. "I don't want Paris, and I don't want Rebecca. I won't go anywhere, Fiona. Let's go back to New York, we'll live in your apartment together. Please forgive me. I can't live without you, I love you." I shook my head with weariness, my voice calm and cruel, each word exposing Steve's selfishness and hypocrisy. "You love me? Steve, what you love is a shadow who did your laundry, paid your bills, had no self-worth, and was always chasing you. You love the sense of control, not me." I ruthlessly exposed the truth. From start to finish, you never respected me. You didn't consider our future, you were just calculating who could bring you the most value. Paris and Rebecca were what you thought was your best option. Now you see Casper's estate and my new life, you're broken, because you're afraid you miscalculated and lost someone you could exploit. Steve's face was ashen. Unable to refute me, he stammered incoherent excuses. Just then, the phone in his pocket began to vibrate furiously. The screen displayed the name Rebecca. "Answer it," I said flatly. Steve looked at me in terror, as if he'd been burned, not wanting to answer in front of me. But the phone kept ringing. He finally answered with a trembling hand. The next second, Rebecca's hysterical shriek erupted, loud enough for me to hear clearly. "Steve! You coward! You actually dared to turn around and go crawling back to her. Where are you right now? Are you at her fancy apartment building? Don't forget, we promised to go to Paris together. I won't let you get away with this, and I won't let Fiona get away with this. Just you wait." Rebecca's fury burned with jealousy and possessiveness. Steve quickly moved the phone away, trying to promise something to the person on the other end. I listened to it all coldly, completely unmoved, feeling only absolute clarity. I looked at Steve as one would look at a patch of mud they had accidentally stepped in. "Listen, Steve," I said with finality. "Sort out your own mess. From now on, don't ever appear in front of me again. Otherwise, my security guards will blacklist you, and my lawyer will make you pay the price." I turned and walked into the apartment lobby without a backward glance. Casper quickly caught up with me, asking worriedly if I was all right. I simply smiled faintly. "I'm fine, Casper. I feel more free and relaxed than ever before." 1 year later, New York. Time is the best medicine and the fairest judge. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of a top financial firm on Wall Street, looking out over bustling Manhattan. I was dressed in a well-tailored business suit, my demeanor confident and capable. My life in New York was fully on track, work was progressing smoothly, I had established a reputation within the company, and I had made many sincere friends. My weekends no longer revolved around someone else's selfish needs, but were filled with museums, art galleries, underground concerts that Casper took me to explore, and family dinners at the Long Island estate. Casper had become my boyfriend. We were an enviable couple in Manhattan's social circle. Casper's love was respect, support, and equality, a warmth I had never experienced. I occasionally heard old classmates mention Steve's current situation. He never went to Paris. After his messy breakup with the hysterical Rebecca, his career stalled, and he was forced to return to a small city in his hometown, living the mediocre life he once looked down on the most. His so-called friends quickly dispersed once he lost his utility. I smiled calmly. I was grateful that I had woken up in time on the eve of that graduation, reclaimed my identity, and avoided being dragged down by a toxic relationship. I had pursued my dream, settled alone in my luxury New York apartment, and found my own happiness and love in a brand new world. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Casper, "Come home early tonight. I want to cook dinner with you." The reply was almost instantaneous, "On my way, my queen." I looked at the response, my eyes filled with starlight, and turned toward my bright and brand new future.